What's up guys, it's your host Spartanic Arts DxD back with another high school DxD related video. And today we have What If Issei Found Out the Truth Part 4. You already know the like goal. Let's try to hit 1,000 likes for this banging video. If you guys want to know exactly when I upload / my upload schedule, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for support with all that stream. I know I thanked you enough, but like seriously, more streams like that to come. That was extremely fun for me. So again, thanks for all the support. Now tell me what you guys think about the idea if Issei was a god killer. And I know I'd be writing that story myself, but I want to know what would happen if what pushed him to become a god killer. And I already have some type of basis for the story, but whatever. It'll be Issei the God Killer is born, is what I want the title to exactly be. You can say it in the comments, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. As the duo walked through the extravagant building, Issei walked with a calm detachment, thinking of his most recent conversation. Lady Phoenix, meanwhile, was content to walk in silence. After a few minutes, they reached the door, just as large and just as decorated as one Issei had entered previously. The one would be one of the living rooms in his house, closer to Ravel's room. No doubt she would be there. "I'm sure." After her little tour, said Lady Phoenix. "Thank you," said Issei calmly, before reaching the handle. Also, one last thing I'd like to say, Ravel is still growing at this point, both mentally and physically. However, even amongst the devils, they say, if you want to know what a daughter will look like when she grows up, look no further than her mother, said Lady Phoenix, before giving a smile, turning on her heel and leaving. Whether voluntary or not, Issei's eyes followed Lady Phoenix's form, as she walked away, paying close attention to the sway of her hips, before shaking his head. Not exactly what I was expecting from Ravel and Riser's mother, thought Issei in surprise. Issei opened the large door and was greeted a room that it was equally large and well furnished as the one he had left. Only in this room, Irina, Zenobia, and Ravel were present. Irina and Zenobia were sitting on the three-seated sofa, across from Ravel, on the three-seater of her own, both in luxurious red upholstery. Ravel was sitting in the middle of her sofa, while Irina and Zenobia are sitting on either end of their sofa. "Issei, you're back!" exclaimed Ravel in surprise as she turned to face whoever had opened the door inside and slated Issei. Yeah, shouldn't I be?" asked Issei in confusion. "Oh, no, of course not. I was just surprised. Mother usually takes a while. I wasn't expecting you to be back for at least another hour," said Ravel in embarrassment. "Well, I didn't really want to leave you all alone for too long. So, once we finished the main reason for her wanting to talk to me, I requested to leave and then she brought me here," explained Issei. "Mother brought you herself?" asked Ravel in bafflement. Yeah, said Issei questioningly. Ravel gave a small jump as a magic circle appeared next to her ear, giving a few nods here and there. After a moment, she turned to Issei. "Issei, would you like to have your battle with Cyreorg today?" asked Ravel curiously. Sure, why not?" said Issei, after a moment of thought. "In that case," Issei accepts, "shall we have an hour from now?" asked Ravel, communicating through the magic circle. After another pause, Ravel gave a small nod to herself before the magic circle disappeared. "Well, it seems you will be able to fight Cyreorg very soon. In fact, I'm actually quite surprised at how quickly everything has been organized. It seems that many wanted to see the Red Dragon face off against the strongest youth," said Ravel. "Not to sound pessimistic, but are you sure you can handle Cyreorg, Issei? He is outrageously strong," asked Zenobia, rubbing her stomach in memory of her battle with Cyreorg. "Well, it has been a while since I fought with anyone, but considering the last person I fought with was Kuroka, an outrageously strong devil in her own right, I think I can handle it," said Issei thoughtfully. "You do have the advantage of being an angel as well," added Irina. "Yeah, but I'm thinking about not using my light powers against him," confessed Issei, surprising the others. "Why?" asked Irina in confusion. "Well, it's no secret that most devils aren't too happy with my change, so I was thinking it would be best to keep things under wraps. I still have the boosted gear and senjutsu though, so I don't think I'll be into inconvenience," explained Issei. Well, politically, that is a wise move. But you're sure you cannot combat Cyreorg otherwise?" asked Ravel carefully. "Of course, I might not have the ability to promote, but with Senjutsu, my body is more resistant, my attacks are stronger, and my magical prowess is higher. It is like I am promoting when using it, so I don't really need it to be difficult for me," said Issei. "Well, no matter what, we will be cheering you on, right?" asked Irina. "Yes, well, it'll be a great battle too," added Zenobia. "Where will the fight be?" asked Issei. "The same arena where Cyreorg had his most recent battle," said Ravel hesitantly. "I see. So the same place where Zenobia fought him. Fitting, I suppose," said Issei calmly. There was an extended pause at this point, reflecting the awkwardness around avoiding a certain Gremory's name. "Should we make our way there now, then?" asked Issei. "Very well. It will take a minute or two to get there if we transport, but it will take a setup to the circle to carry all of us," said Ravel, before Issei plopped himself down beside her. "Just let me know when it's ready. I might take a small nap now," said Issei tiredly, before resting his elbow on the armrest and resting his head on his fist, closing his eyes. Line break. Issei felt a hand caressing his cheek and leant into it slightly. The hand was soft and it made Issei smile. "Oh, does this feel good?" Issei asked a familiar voice, which caused his eyes to snap open. There in front of him was not Rainier, but rather her other form, Yuma Amano. "Isn't it bad enough that you taunt me? Now you do it in two forms," grumbled Issei. Fine, I just thought you would appreciate a more innocent face," said Yuma, before morphing back into Rainier. "You are anything but innocent," grumbled Issei. "Oh, come on, Issei, compare me to all the others and you know I am just as innocent. I have to admit, though, that lady, she's certainly worrieder than I," said Rainier with a smirk. "I'm not stupid. I know what Lady Phoenix was trying to do," said Issei calmly. Rainier simply tapped her index finger on his nose. "Yet you didn't call her on it. Sometimes, Issei, I wonder if you like being pushed around and played with. First there was me, then Rias, now there's another," said Rainier mockingly, causing Issei to growl. "I hate you so much," growled Issei. "Oh, Issei, your words wooed me, or at least they would if they were true," said Rainier, leaning closer to Issei. "I do hate you," insisted Issei, even as Rainier drew closer to him. "Oh, Issei, we both know that isn't the truth," said Rainier as she leaned closer and Issei and briefly pressed her lips against his. Issei quickly pulled back and wiped his lips with his right hand, making Rainier laugh. "I know you felt it, Issei. You know the truth. You just can't accept it," said Rainier mockingly before fading away in his head. Line break. Issei grumbled as his eyes opened. That definitely wasn't one of his better dreams, but considering things, it wasn't his worst. Issei gave a big inhale and stretched his arm up high over his head before standing up. It seemed that he had been left alone to rest, as Irina, Zenobia, and Ravel weren't present. Issei walked to the door and opened it, only to be surprised about who it was on the other side. "Riser, what are you doing here?" asked Issei in confusion. "To take you to the transport point, where we woke up, of course," said Riser, before walking up with Issei following it. "So, how are things with you recently, Riser?" asked Issei. "You're attempting to make small talk is amusing," said Riser with a grin. "Well, sorry for trying to be polite," grumbled Issei. "To answer your question, I've been training. I want to go back into the raiding game sometime soon, so I'm preparing myself and my Parage," said Riser. I never really pictured you for the training type," confessed Issei. "I wasn't, considering I have never lost before. I had only rely on my immortality, which was usually enough," laughed Riser. "I guess not many devils have access to holy water," commented Issei, before getting Riser to laugh again. "No, but I do enjoy it. It turns out," admitted Riser. "Holy water?" asked Issei in surprise. "No, of course not. Training. There is something about it which makes me feel more alive. I suppose flames aren't meant to sit still. They are meant to rage and grow," said Riser calmly. "Well, good for you. Maybe next time you might actually stand a chance of beating me," teased Issei. "As I recall, we were at one victory each. Don't get cocky," retorted Riser. I guess that's true. We'll have to see a tiebreaker soon then," said Issei thoughtfully. "Well, first you can fight Cyro-Org. I'll be watching in interest as well," said Riser before stopping in the front door, once again large and lavish. "In that case, you're in quite for show," said Issei with a smirk. "I'm sure," said Riser before opening the door. Inside were Ravel, Zenobia, and Irina. In the center of the room was large yellow magic circle. "Oh good, you're here. It's ready to go," said Ravel. "You're coming along for the ride, Riser?" asked Issei. "Nah, I'll take myself," said Riser, before disappearing with the use of his own magic circle. "Show off," grumbled Issei. The four walked to the center of the circle, before Ravel flared her power and circle activated, rising up from the ground and turning them into particles of light. The group materialized in a spacious floor, with tables and exercise equipment around. It looks identical," commented Zenobia. "Well, it wouldn't be changed even for one-on-one battle. In any case, we will go with the match from stands. The battle will commence in 5 minutes, and an announcement will be made. Good luck," said Ravel before the girls left Issei alone. Issei took a deep breath and waited, calming himself down to control his senjutsu. It was probably what helped lower his lust and gave Drake more of a break from his perverted thoughts. Without a calm mind, senjutsu was dangerous, but with a calm mind, senjutsu proved an impressive tool. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the special expedition today between the strongest youth, Cyro-Org Bill, and the Red Dragon Emperor, Issei Hyodo, declared the announcer, causing Issei to open his eyes. "It's time," said Issei calmly, as he stood up and walked towards the entrance of the stadium. Issei ignored the announcer as he hyped up the event and explained the specifics of the battle. It didn't matter to Issei too much. Both combatants wouldn't quit. It would keep fighting with any injuries they took. Both knew this fight would only end one way, with the other unconscious. Nothing else would suffice. Issei saw Sara-Org march out, raising his fist into the air. Issei looked up and saw Sara-Org's parade looking on the cheering their hero. Issei gave a small smile at this before hearing his own name called out and stepped out into the stadium as well. As Issei made his way towards Sara-Org, he was surprised to only hear cheers. It seemed even when becoming an angel, the masses were still on his side. A few quick glances around, though, and Issei noticed more official-looking devils were not happy. Their stony gazes watched Issei carefully, studying his every move. "Well, Red Dragon, I guess we will finally find out who's the strongest between us," said Sara-Org with a fearless smile. "The strongest, you say," commented Issei. "Indeed. This will be the true test of power," continued Sara-Org. "In that case, what do you think about a purely physical battle? I must admit, it would be unfair for me to use my light powers against you, and I don't believe it would be wise of me to do so either," persisted Issei. "Are you underestimating me, Red Dragon?" asked Sara-Org as his smile tightened. "Of course not, but I can't be careless anymore, especially considering where I am. Does it not sound like an even fight? Your Tokyo and my Senjutsu. We both know a little magic in a one-on-one battle. Tactics are not very useful. Why not make this battle of power? Who can trump the other with bodies? No fancy or flashy tricks," explained Issei. "I must admit that does sound interesting. I truly did want to fight you at your very best, but I can understand you not wanting to endanger yourself," laughed Sara-Org. "It isn't myself that I worry for. Rather, what happens to the others to get me," said Issei with a small frown. "I see. In that case, I accept your challenge. A battle of pure strength. My blood is boiling already," declared Sara-Org. "Awesome. In that case, shall we begin?" asked Issei. Sara-Org smirked as a weird mask appeared on all four of his limbs. Shadow lights now out from Sara-Org's limbs before the marks vanished. A huge explosion burst from Sara-Org. The wind pressure from the blast formed a crater under him. Sara-Org's body was now bathed in a white glow. It was Toki. Issei stood in front of Sara-Org within the crater. "I have to say, I'm impressed. If this was before, I would be hard-pressed to match you, even with the boosted gear. However, I've not been sitting idly by for the past weeks," commented Issei, before black helical markings spread across his arms, neck, and face. "But I'm not the same person as I once before," finished Issei as the marks seemed to scatter and a reddish glow surrounded him. The ground cratered even more as the audience watched in awe. In particular, though, a certain red-haired observer watched a pang of regret. "Issei, you've become so strong without us," thought Ria sadly. Sara-Org raised an eyebrow in surprise. "I must say, I've never seen an energy of this color before," commented Sara-Org. "It comes with being the Red Dragon, and also who trained me. My Senjutsu was rather rough to begin with, but with Drake's help along with my instructor, I was able to fit it in, myself particularly. It not only draws my life force, but it drags as well, along with all the past wielders of the boosted gear. This is why, even if I do not directly use the boosted gear in this state, I may as well be using it anyway," explained Issei. "How terrifying! You are an interesting person, Issei Hyodo," said Sara-Org with a wide smile. "As you are. As are you, but enough talk. Now, it's time for us to speak with our fists," said Issei, raising his right hand in front of him, red and black energy dancing around it. "I wouldn't have had it any other way," said Sara-Org before launched their fist at each other. The crowd instantly flished as a massive explosion of light behind them are all momentarily. When the light cleared and everyone regained their vision, the crowd looked on in shock. Behind Issei's right and Sara-Org's left were deep trenches behind them. The clashes of fists had shot through the combatants and tore up the ground. Issei looked at his fist in surprise for a moment, bringing it back to his face before smirking. Sara-Org too gave a smirk before it both disappeared in a flash of light. The stadium was silent, as no one could see or hear anything. Before a thunderous echo reverberated through the arena, Issei had launched an elbow at Sara-Org's head with his right arm while Sara-Org had blocked it with his both palms. Sara-Org swung into action, bringing his left fist into an uppercut aimed it directly at Issei's solar plexus, only for Issei to harshly swing his right arm down and block the attack with his forearm, causing a massive explosion of energy on impact. The crowd gaped at the power behind each attack before cheering loudly. The two disappeared once again, before the other thunderous explosion was heard. Cyborg and Issei both grappled each other and pushing against each other. It was perfect stalemate. Despite Cyborg's greater size, the two disappeared again, only to reappear with light right knees slammed against each other in the brief moment. You could notice a smirk of amusement from both of them before they disappeared again. Numerous explosions continued to ring out throughout the stadium, showing Issei and Cyborg momentarily for a moment, clashing before disappearing again. The crowd roared in excitement. Despite only seeing occasional flashes of the battle, after a few minutes of intense clashes, the duo started to slow down and stop 2 meters away from each other, both appearing ruffled and slightly out of breath, but still largely uninjured. I must say, Cyborg, this is one hell of a fight. I've never faced someone like you before, someone who throws himself in the battle this way, commented Issei. I agree. It seems the two of us are quite alike, throwing our bodies into a fight with reckless abandon, agreed Cyborg with a grin. However, now the true test of speed out of the way, I think it's time to move on to the main event, said Issei, as his aura swelled up around him, causing the wind to blow from his position, pushing the dust away from him. I can't wait, said Cyborg, as his power also flared, meeting Issei in the middle, causing a loud fashion reverberate from a power alone. Line break. Wow, Issei is so strong, commented Irina in awe, watching the two release their energy. Yes, even when I fought Cyborg, his power was tremendous, but right now, I can feel it is even higher. I think he must have been training for this fight with Issei intensely. Both before our battle and immediately following it, added Zenobia. I never knew Issei was this strong, though, muddled Ravel in surprise. Elsewhere, 2 glasses-clad women were also watching the fight in interest. He's a completely different person than before, commented Sona, watching a glazing gaze. Not only that, he has yet to use his sacred gear. This amount of power is terrifying. Both his and Cyborg's, added Tsubaki, Sona's queen. Although I'm sure he didn't plan this, but it will no doubt settle down mania for the higher-ups, who were disgruntled with the recent events. To be this strong without even using his sacred gear, a Longinus at that, I don't think anyone would want to anger him, added Sona, before refocusing on the fight. Scene break. Well, Cyborg, since neither of us is holding back anymore, let me say this in advance. This was a great fight, and I look forward to a time where we could both fight completely unrestrained, said Issei with a smirk. Ha! I hope I can have some time to train before then. You truly surpass my expectations. Even without using your power of light and balance breaker, you are almost a match for my full power. It is embarrassing, but also exciting. Keep getting stronger after this, and I will do the same, said Cyborg before his power intensified again, pushing Issei's away and pushing him back slightly. Issei crossed his arms over his head as Cyborg slammed an axe down on them. Issei quickly opened his hands and grabbed onto Cyborg's right leg and swung backwards, slamming Cyborg into the ground. Cyborg placed his hands down in front of him, cushioning the blow. It is a modified push-up position before twisting his body, throwing it to Issei's side. Issei flipped midair, slamming his hand on the ground to slow his movement, only to find Cyborg charging at him with a right fist. Issei quickly charged to meet him, and at the last moment gave the right palm thrust to Cyborg's inner elbow, numbing it temporarily, before twisting his body and launching his left elbow into Cyborg's gut, stunning him. Cyborg bent over slightly, looming over Issei's left shoulder, only for Issei to grab the back of Cyborg's head in between his hands and run forward, before falling to the ground, slamming Cyborg's head against the ground, Issei's back hitting it as well. Issei quickly flipped over Cyborg and grabbed him around the waist, before giving a mighty heave and suplexed larger fighter over his head, slamming him his head first into the ground. Issei didn't let go after his maneuver, and picked Cyborg up again, quickly turned around before hefting Cyborg up and harshly down into another suplex. Cyborg quickly brought up his legs and slammed them into Issei's chest, breaking his hold, before roughly getting to his feet, blood trickling down his forehead from a cut within his hairline. Cyborg charged Issei again, this time with a palm thrust of his own, and slammed Issei into Issei's right shoulder, spinning him, before launching a sidekick into a small of Issei's back, propelling him towards the stadium wall. Issei slammed into a wall harshly, with a crunch causing quite a few to cringe, at what sounded like bones breaking. Issei pulled out himself out of the wall, only for Cyborg to suddenly appear behind him and push his face back into the wall. The wall suddenly vibrated as Issei gave a deep growl and launched his right elbow back, nailing Cyborg in his ribs before spinning and launching in a roundhouse kick, which sent Cyborg into the stadium wall to Issei's left. Issei took a brief reprieve to crack his nose back into place, grimacing as he did so, before spitting out a wad of blood from when he had his bit his cheek. When Cyber-Org slammed him into the wall the second time, Cyber-Org clambered out of the wall as well, spitting out a wad of blood as he moved his jaw around carefully. Issei grinned before rushing Cyber-Org again and tackled him into the wall. Issei somersaulted back, avoiding Cyber-Org's downward punch at his back before launching a push kick into Cyber-Org's chest, slamming him back into the wall and digging further into the construction. Cyber-Org then grabbed Issei's ankle and twisted. Issei turned with motion to avoid having his ankle shattered, but he couldn't protect himself from Cyber-Org's elbow slamming into his knee, causing him to cry out in pain as the joint barely held on. Under the immense power, placing his hands on the ground, Issei twisted his legs hoping for Cyber-Org, but he released Issei's leg and slammed it into Issei's gut, cratering the ground under him and causing a spittle of blood to fly from Issei's mouth. Issei recovered quickly and grabbed Cyber-Org's arm before throwing him over his legs back towards the center of the stadium. Issei pushed as much as energy into his legs as they could handle and charged after Cyber-Org. As Cyber-Org's body flew from out the air, Issei was upon him and launched numerous punches along his torso before disappearing once again and reappearing in front of him of where Cyber-Org was flying. Issei crouched down and waited for Cyber-Org to reach him before launching a back kick into Cyber-Org's back, launching him into the air. Cyber-Org groaned at a recent onslaught and had experience before widening his eyes slightly as Issei had appeared above him. "Take this!" shouted Issei before slamming a double axe handle right into Cyber-Org's gut, sending him flying to the ground. The crowd gaped at the massive explosion that occurred. When Cyber-Org impacted with the ground, the walls themselves were already cracked and would need repairs after the fight. The ground was created in numerous places, and many wondered if the stadium would even last the match. Issei slowly fell into the ground, creating a small crater on impact when he landed and dropping him down to one knee. Breathing heavily, blood was still running down his nose and out of his mouth. Issei ripped off his school blazer, wondering why he hadn't unclothed himself in something more appropriate for fighting. As he ripped off his white, long-sleeved dress shirt, leaving his clad in red t-shirt showing his muscles and also quite a few welts on his arms from blocking Cyber-Org's hits, as well as the impact of launching his own attacks. His pants were also frayed, revealing his ankles and lower parts of his shins. Cyber-Org groaned as he stood up from the crater, taking a full 10 seconds to get back to a vertical base. His white vest was in tatters after the onslaught, and taking his black bodysuit was torn in many places, revealing fresh blood dripping from his arms. "I must say, this has been one of the most enjoyable, almost painful fights I've ever experienced. You are truly a worthy opponent, so much so that I no longer feel worthy to witness your power. If I'm losing this badly when you're handicapped," said Cyber-Org, panting as he did so. "Well, you're not making it easy for me either," chuckled Issei weakly. I'm not sure how much longer my body will hold together, so what if you say one last attack to finish this?" proposed Cyber-Org. "Sure, why not?" agreed Issei with a grin. The crowd had been cheering wildly for the past 10 minutes, but neither Issei nor Cyber-Org could hear them anymore. They were too immersed in their battle to care. Issei and Cyber-Org both gathered energy into their right fist, their auras concentrating solely to their fist, leaving the rest of their bodies. Fatigue was setting in for both, and just doing this was a task. But do it they did. Issei stood his feet and Cyber-Org strengthened his stance. The two faced off, both grimacingly fierce before burst at each other. The two reared their fists back and swung, causing an explosion of energy and blinding everyone temporarily. As the spots dancing and everyone's vision started to fade, they saw Issei with his right fist lodged into Cyber-Org's gut, a solid uppercut to the solar plex, doubling him over slightly. Cyber-Org had launched a wicked across, right into Issei's jaw, tightening his head to the side. There was a moment of silence, as the crowd waited with bated breath to see who would fall. Issei dropped to his right knee, stopping himself from meeting the ground with his left fist. The crowd was just about to cheer for Cyber-Org's victory, when the devil wobbled unsteadily on his feet and fell right onto Issei's shoulder. "You're amazing, Cyber-Org. You were barely holding on at the end there. You took every hit, weren't even conscious anymore, but you still managed to land your blow on me. You are truly a worthy opponent as well," muttered Issei. Issei weakly raised himself and Cyber-Org to their feet before raising his left fist into the sky in victory. The crowd's roar was defeating, eardrum shattering. A fight such as this was truly worthy of praise, and the spectators showed it. Issei struggled to carry Cyber-Org away before Cyber-Org's queen, a beautiful blonde-haired girl, came and took him from Issei, despite the difference in size between the two. Issei breathed a sigh of relief and turned towards his waiting room. He took one step before his eyes closed and fell forward, unconscious. And that is the end of Chapter 9, Clash of the Titans. Chapter 10, It's All in Your Head. Issei gave a small groan as he returned to consciousness. It took a moment for Issei to last remember what happened. After a minute, he realized he had passed out after his fight with Cyborg and fallen flat on his face. "Yeah, that must have hurt," commented a voice, which made Issei freeze. Looking to his left, Issei saw milky white skin, covered in labyrinth leather attire. As his gaze traveled upwards, he saw two distinct black wings. Wings of a fallen angel. Hesitantly, Issei raised his head and rest of the way and gazed at the visage of a person standing to his right. He could never mistake those violet eyes, coupled with automatically angelic face and long black hair. "Hi, Issei. Missed me?" asked Rainier in amusement. Issei merely stared at Rainier with a scrutinizing gaze, before weakly raising his right hand to his face and pinching his cheek as hard as he could. "Oh, don't be like that. It's not a dream. I'm here with you, Issei," cooed Rainier, leaning closer to Issei. Issei kept his gaze on Rainier, even as she walked closer to him. If this was a dream, Issei was ready to wake up right now. As he stood, he exhausted even someone like Rainier, weak as she was, would have a reasonable chance of killing him. Issei weakly tried to sit up, away from the smiling visage that was approaching him, only to hear someone open the door to his room, causing both him and Rainier to look at it. Once the door was open, Ravel was revealed, looking for somewhat tired, but she perked up as soon as she seen Issei. "Issei, you're awake!" exclaimed Ravel in joy. Issei couldn't return her enthusiasm as she glanced to Rainier, who Ravel seemed completely oblivious of. "I'm awake?" asked Issei slowly. "Of course you are," said Ravel, as she approached Issei from his left side, opposite Rainier. "Your match was particularly, however. After the Sarorg was carried away by the Queen, you passed out and I brought you back here," explained Ravel. It was at this point that Issei took in his surroundings, noticing that for a hospital or a medical bay, the area was rather decorative. Lots of precious metals and stones dotted in the room, even his sheets were silk. Issei glanced over to Rainier again before turning back to Ravel. "How long have I been out for?" asked Issei. "Almost a full 12 hours, said Ravel with a hint of worry in her tone. Issei's eyes widened in surprise. "What about Cyborg?" asked Issei. "He woke up about an hour ago. It is possible you need longer to recover because he landed an attack on your head," answered Ravel. "I see," said Issei thoughtfully. "I'm surprised though, Issei. I mean, what's the difference between her and that red-haired bitch? Both are pure devils. Both split princesses. Both have dominating families. Really, what's the difference? Is it the blonde hair? Maybe you like younger girls. I guess you must be a masochist. Considering that this will probably go the same way," said Rainier, finishing with a shrug. "If you are feeling better, you can get up and walk around a bit," said Ravel softly. Issei grunted before trying to get up. Ravel quickly went to Issei's side to help him sit up, supporting his shoulder and holding his hand. Issei stood up, with Ravel standing very close to him before cracking his neck, and he left a rolling on his right shoulder. "I'm okay," said Issei to Ravel, who gave a smile. "Whatever. It isn't like I've been watching you over all this time," muttered Ravel with a small blush on her cheeks. Issei chuckled and patted Ravel on her hair, causing her to blush intensify. That must be it. You like little girls, don't you?" quipped Rainier. Issei firmly ignored her and made for the door, with Ravel quickly walking in front of him and opening the door herself. When Issei stepped into the hallway, his eyes widened when he saw Rainier resting against the wall to his right. Issei quickly looked back, and she was no longer in the room they had just left. "Is something wrong, Issei? Did you forget something?" asked Ravel in concern. "No, I'm fine," said Issei, giving Ravel a small smile. As the duo walked, Issei couldn't help but notice that Rainier was walking right next to him. "I mean, a girl with this much money. Why would she want someone like you? Obviously for your status, but really, it isn't like you have much else to offer," said Rainier with a fuck status. Ravel led Issei back to the room where he had taken his nap in, before going to the same and saw Irina and Zenobia sitting there as they stood before. "Issei, we were so worried about you," exclaimed Irina with a nervous expression. "Yes, that was an excellent fight as well," added Zenobia. "Oh look, two traitors. Well, I suppose that really isn't true, since they were never on your side to begin with. Quite frankly, I'm surprised you believe them. It's laughable," said Rainier in amusement. "I'm fine," said Issei reassuringly. "Fine? That's funny. If you had jokes like me on that date, I might have not killed you," laughed Rainier. "Anyway, with that out of the way, I was thinking it might be a good idea to go home and rest," said Issei. "Yes, that would be the smart thing to do. I'll get a magic circle ready for you," said Ravel, before leaving Issei alone with Irina and Zenobia. "To think you honestly thought of these two cared for you. Then again, You thought I cared for you as well. So clearly your bad grudge of people's intentions. I mean, I could have seen that red-haired skank using you a mile away. Say what you will about me, but when I turned on you, I was upfront about it. She just kept manipulating you behind her smile. I'm almost envious of how manipulative she is, said Rainier, becoming wistful towards the end. How are you feeling, Issei? Asked Irina worriedly. I told you, I'm fine, really, said Issei with a small laugh. Rainier laughed along with Issei, but for different reasons. Okay, if you're sure, said Irina reluctantly. How did you become so strong, Issei? You didn't even use your boosted gear, yet you beat Sour and he is no pushover. I know, questioned Zenobia, lightly brushing her stomach in her memory. Ah, betrayal is a beautiful thing, isn't it? Nothing serves to push someone more. Am I right, Issei? Quipped Rainier playfully. Just training, I suppose. Senjutsu is really powerful, especially for brute strength, said Issei. Of course she wants to know. After all, if she can use you to get stronger, why wouldn't she stick around? Questioned Rainier. It's ready, said Ravel, as she re-entered the room and gestured for them to follow her. I have to say, though, compared to that red whore, this one is a much nicer house, commented Rainier, looking at the roof. Issei looked at Rainier, who quickly matched his gaze. What? You know it's true. They might have had dozens of butlers and maids, but they had nowhere near this much gold, or anywhere close to the number of jewels I've seen in this place, said Rainier. As the four walked over to the circle, Rainier stood off to the side. See you at home, Issei, giggled Rainier, blowing a kiss to Issei. Issei pursed his lips as his form was vaporized before reappearing in his living room. Issei sighed for a moment before a figure walked out of his bathroom. Welcome home, Issei. I missed you, teased Rainier, putting a fox and sad expression and placing her index finger on his lips. Girls, sorry if this is abrupt, but I think I'm going to take a nap. I'm still pretty tired after everything, said Issei weakly, giving a small smile. Of course. It would be the best for you to rush as much as possible so you can recover quickly, said Ravel, with the two nodding. Thanks. I'll see you later, said Issei, walking to his bedroom. Oh, is this the way that you're saying you're going to get down and dirty? My, Issei, I never expected you to go straight from a grueling battle into that of a snack, said Rainier in a surprise before smirking. Issei ignored the fallen angel, but made sure to close his bedroom door. Not like it helped, since she was lying down on the bed. Come on, Issei, what's the expression? Oh, right. Paint me like one of your French girls, purred Rainier. Issei walked to the bed and slid next to Rainier, before turning his back to her. Oh, playing hard to get, are we? That's fine. I have plenty of time. I'm not going anywhere after all. Good night, Issei, said Rainier sweetly, blowing a kiss to Issei before laughing. Scene break. Issei awoke the next day, feeling two mounds pressing against his back. Issei stiffened before feeling two tails wrapped around his legs. Oh, one is hilarious, Issei. I guess you do like bad girls, although you could barely touch me even after I skewered you, said Rainier, standing in front of Issei leaning against the door. Rainier walked over to Issei, looming close to his face. I'm sure you wanted me to be the one to take your virginity, though, didn't you? Don't deny it. I know the truth, after all, said Rainier with a smirk. Issei tried to get up, only to find Kuroka had also wrapped her arms around his midsection. I bet you think she is holding you like that because she cares about you. Sorry, Issei, but she only wants your kids. You yourself are a sperm donor to her. It is likely she only wanted you after all. She did ask the White Dragon Emperor as well. You just happened to be the one to agree to be the breeding stock. So sad. At least I pretended to actually care for you before taking what I wanted, said Rainier sadly. After a bit of struggling, Issei managed to find himself free from Kuroka's embrace, and finally decided to change his clothes. However, given his odor, he decided to shower first. As Issei grabbed his robe and carried it to the shower, he sighed upon opening the door and seeing Rainier there waiting for him. What? You saw me naked? It's only fair I get to see you naked, said Rainier calmly. Issei paused for a full minute before sighing and stripping out of his damaged clothes. Well, it's good to see you've buffed up since a little then. You were pretty scrawny after all. No wonder you couldn't get a girl, commented Rainier. Issei gave a small huff before undressing completely and entering the shower. The shower wasn't particularly large, but it could probably fit 3 people comfortably. Obviously, Issei hadn't tested that to be sure, though. Grabbing his shampoo and laving his hair, Issei scrubbed for a half minute. Before closing his eyes and washing off the studs, opening his eyes again, Issei saw Rainier standing in front of him. Only now, she was naked. Want me to wash your back for you, Issei? I know you want me to, purred Rainier. Issei turned around as he grabbed the soap and started to spread soap across his arms and upper body. Oh, I see how it is. You'd rather I wash something else, wouldn't you, Issei? Teased Rainier, from behind Issei, who reluctantly ignored her. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. I'm a fallen angel after all. Seduction is our greatest talent, quipped Reiner. Issei ignored Reiner, but he finished up as quickly as he could. After dressing in his undergarments, Issei quickly realized that even though he had been out for a while, it was still the weekend. Sunday to be precise. Deciding to trip to heaven may help, Issei grabbed a plan. Red short-sleeved shirt and black jeans, dressed quickly, then made his way to the living room. Issei concentrated, causing his halo to appear above his head, giving a small chant. A white line split down the middle of his apartment in front of him, before manifesting into a large door, which slowly opens, spewing bright light. Issei walked through, before finding himself outside a pair of large gates, surrounded by marble constructions. Calmly, Issei walked through the gates, emerging into a white fluffy area, which extended as far as the eye could see before heading to the elevator. As he made his way through, he greeted everyone who greeted him in return. While the devils may have been unhappy at what happened, many in heaven were delighted. While the fallen angels at one point had the white dragon and the devils had the red dragon, heaven was left without a dragon. This isn't to say they were at a disadvantage. Dulio was a true force to be reckoned with, but having a dragon of their own eased their souls. As the elevator reached the 6th floor, Issei made his way to where he knew the Seraphs would be. It was rare for all of them to be present today, was no exception, but both Michael and Gabriel were present, and all of the people, Dulio was there as well. "Ah, hello, Issei. I trust you have been well," greeted Michael once he noticed Issei. "Yes, things have been going well recently," replied Issei with a smile. "Wow, I've never seen this like this to level before. Funny to think that a shameless pervert like you actually managed to get up here," said Reiner, walking past Issei, looking around in awe. "Well, for the most part," amended Issei, his smiling, shrinking slightly. "Is something wrong, Issei? You know I'm always here to listen to anything you have to discuss," said Gabriel pleasantly. "Seriously, her boobs are huge, even bigger than mine. Much to I hate to admit it, how did someone like you get rescued by someone like her?" commented Reiner in shock. "I would greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you sometime soon, but I came today in hopes that you may need of me. I've been growing somewhat restless and I'm afraid," confessed Issei nervously. I don't mind if he comes along with me. It would be nice to have some company," said Dulio, giving his input. "I see. In that case, Issei, there have been a few reports recently of something rather disturbing, a rather unnatural energy source near Romania. It is close to the domain of the vampires, but not actually within the territory itself. It had gotten our attention, as the feeling is similar to the output of a Longinus. We have no idea if it's controlled or not, nor who may be coming from. Ideally, you should scout the area information, but if conflict is unavoidable, do try not to let it escalate and return as quickly as possible. We have been on good terms with the vampires and are investigating so close to their area. It is bound to cause tension," explained Michael. "No worries. If we need to remain undetected, I'll be able to cloak both Dulio and myself with Ki," said Issei. "In that case, you can leave whenever you are ready," said Michael calmly. "All right, let's do this, Dulio," cheered Issei. "You're rather enthusiastic," commented Dulio in amusement. "What can I say? I've had a lot on my mind that sounds just the thing to help me distract from my current thoughts," said Issei. "Oh, you can try, but we both know I'm going to be on your mind, whether you like it or not," teased Reiner, leaning over Issei's right shoulder, whispering into his ear. Scene break. Issei and Dulio were walking through a dark, slightly foggy mountain terrain. There were numerous mountains in the distance to go off west. A civilization could be made out, a rather large town from appearances, but in fact the location of the vampires. The two jokers were a good distance away, though, appearing only as tiny as specks in the distance to anyone who would try to spot them, enhanced vision or not. "What are you eating?" Dulio asked Issei, noticing Dulio was eating a rounded cylindrical sandwich. I believe this is known as a kebab," replied Dulio, taking another bite. "And exactly where did you get it from?" asked Issei in surprise. "I always carry a few foods with me. It helps me longer my journeys more interesting," replied Dulio. Issei blinked in confusion, before giving a slight shake of his head and ignoring it. Dulio and food had an interesting relationship, one of that was best to not be understood. Issei had found out that Dulio was a food amphibian, but out of gluttony, he brought back any new exciting foods he found in the children's various orphanages, hoping to give them a taste of exotic cuisine and buoy their spirits. Issei had also heard that upon hearing about a new food, Dulio would become unreachable. And that is where we're going to stop for now, which is in like around the middle of chapter 10. I'm sorry for stopping in the middle of these chapters. It's just I don't have as much time to read, and I kind of just do it whenever I'm doing work at the same time. But again, thank you for all that support. Like seriously, it's truly crazy. What if Naruto was betrayed? I'm seriously going to do this one like pretty soon, maybe even in the middle of the Truth series. But yes, if you guys really want to know exactly when I upload or my upload schedule, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button. I just thought I'd mention that once more. Seriously, I can't thank you guys for all the support. It's actually been amazing. Like hitting all these things, doing that face reveal, making all like it's truly been crazy. Even though people sat there and like thought it was hilarious about how I look, at least there was some compliments in there. Like I did see like a couple of saying that like I looked like athletic and like a much better build than they thought I would, which I'm glad I changed some people's thoughts, but most of it was about how shit my hairline was, which, you know what? Fair enough. But once again, thanks for all the support. 30K soon, baby. Let's rock it. Without further ado, Spartanic Arts DxD.